LTD, long total distance. That's the new strapline for Cobra in their range of drivers for 2022. 3 different heads. Let's go and have a look and see how they perform. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit first about the heads that are available and maybe the type of golfer these are going to suit. So the first one we're going to look at is the LTDx. So this is going to be probably the mass market one. Weighted screw, central, more neutral in the back of the head, creating high MOI, ultimate forgiveness, but obviously long distance. Then moving into the LTDx LS. So LS stands for low spin. You now see 2 movable weights, but now positioned more forward in the club head, pushing that CG more forward in the head, creating that lower launch, lower spin, maybe for that quicker club head speed player, and maybe there's somebody who's trying to control the spin a little bit more. Then moving into the LTDx Max. Obviously, Max is now for maximum forgiveness. So we've got 2 screws again, 1 position at the back and also 1 position in a heel. 2 different weights. We can flip them around and make it a little bit more draw biased or keep it in a more neutral position, but obviously maximizing forgiveness levels. Right, so we're going to kick things off. We're going to start with pretty much the standard one, the LTDx. So as I mentioned, weight in the back, we've got a 10 gram weight position in the center, but right at the back of the club head, maximizing MOI. And MOI is a big thing in these new Cobra's drivers, is what Cobra are pushing. And a measurement of 5,200. This is a measurement of what MOI is basically, which apparently is they've never seen this higher MOI number in any other driver before. Really, really interesting. So what I'm going to expect to see here is really good forgiveness, maybe straight hitting and hopefully long distance, because we've got LTD stands for long total distance. Okay, so let's look at first impressions as always. Down by that golf ball, look in that playing position, and it's pretty good. It doesn't blow me away with the looks. You know, it's a typical Cobra look in a way. You know, I like the fact it's a little bit more blacked out, matte finish now on the top of the crown, which I do like. We've got that frame front bit. We've seen in a few different brands now around that front section, but it's not glossed out. Again, that's a matte, just a duller black finish. Little bit of sort of colour edging on that heel and the toe, little Cobra logo. And then the club face, we're seeing that affinity face again. It wraps underneath this time, doesn't wrap over the top that we've seen in the past. Again, it looks pretty good. I think down by that golf ball, it sits good. Okay, that looks to be quite a nice opening tee shot. Nice sort of launch. Well, that's pretty quick. 115.6. That was pretty quick out of the blocks there for me. So 166 ball with that little bit of extra club head speed, good launch, good spin, 287. That's pretty long to start with. First impressions there with a feel off the club face. That felt pretty hard off the face. It's probably my first instincts there. Again, good ball flight, just a little bit of left to right, but not a lot by any means. Again, good club head speed. Seem to be moving that, maybe aerodynamics working in there a little bit, but just moving that quite nicely at 115, again 165.5. Good launch, great spin. Really good carry again. Hot numbers there. So the standard X, I think this will be suited for probably the mass markets in a way, in terms of ultimately getting that big forgiveness. We're talking Cobra talking, this is sort of mid-launch, low spin, high forgiveness. So again, it's a bit of a theme we're seeing with quite a lot of the brands now. We're offering high forgiveness but with low spin. Sometimes in the past, something we don't associate of a connection being those two things together. Sort of high MOI, typically weight fully back in that back of the club, tends to be like a little bit more higher spin. Low spin, then all that weight obviously goes more forward in the head, but they're getting a combination from a few brands, and the Cobra exactly the same. And how they're doing that is that PWR core sort of technology is what they're saying. So this sort of silver weighted part at the front of the club is pushing weight down and forward. Okay, so we're thinking, okay, when that happens, we've not got a lot of forgiveness, but then we've got this tungsten screw at the back, which is providing the forgiveness. So that weight forward, low spin, weight at the back, ultimate forgiveness. Ooh, that's a touch bottom in the club if I'm going to be really picky, but that flow really nice again. Looks to have just stalled a tiny bit. That spin's probably going to go up there. Not a lot, 2,400. Expecting that maybe it's high 2,000s there with that sort of flight. Again, some good numbers. Okay, so let's talk about this club face. We've got that CNC milled club face that we have seen in a few generations of the Cobra drivers now. It does look pretty cool, to be honest. Now, the affinity of the wrap round on the top has disappeared, but it does wrap round in the bottom, which apparently is helpful with ball speeds, again, in those slightly low contacts. 15 hotspots is what Cobra are saying on this club face now. So they're using a machine, a computer, to sort of understand different strike locations from thousands of different golfers making contact. They've done some research, impact, so to say, and creating different thicknesses behind the club face. We've heard there's all this before, haven't we, of trying to generate hotspots across all of that club face. Again, trying to keep that ball speed up on those miss hits around that club face. Ooh, again, that's a bit, that's just come out so straight. Didn't flush that. That was a bit toey. Yeah, ball speed just dropped a little bit, club speed just dropped tiny. The spins, again, really controlled, 287. So I'll tell you what, I think I'm getting that launch in a really good area there, and the spin obviously can control, which does make a big difference of hitting that little bit extra carry. Typically, I've been sort of around that sort of 282 to 285 on some really good hits on that carry, just squeezing a few more yards there. I'm just not massively sold on the feel of the golf club. I'm not saying it's bad in any way, but it just feels a little bit harsh. It's a little bit hard off the club face, a bit like I'm not getting a lot of feedback. It's just like, boom, you know, ball's just gone, and it's not like it's on the face so long. A little bit harsh feel. Again, feel is very personal. Everybody feels things differently, don't they? But I tell you what, that's up and away. That could be really long. That seems to be in the air for ages. 115.5, 166, just short, 290. Got my launch, controlled the spin, great numbers. So low spin, it's definitely doing that. We're seeing that even in this X head. Right, okay, so just switching the shaft over into the LS head now. So just talking about the shaft that I'm using, it's a Tensai white in a 65X. So typically my sort of shaft, obviously there's some different shaft options to play sort of around with. So LTDx LS. LS stands for low spin. Noticeably those two gold weights now are moved forward. Or there's one in the other one, but it's two now, move forward. And we've got a 10 gram and a 3 gram. So again, we can just switch those from heel to toe fractionally, just to really maybe dial in that sort of strike pattern. If you're a little bit heel strike, maybe more of that weight in that heel section, vice versa for the toes, but also helping maybe a little bit of that shot directional start and dialing in. But obviously moving forward, typically is going to create more of a low spin. I'm concerned now this is going to be too low a spin in version to what I've just seen with that X standard one with the weight at the back. I create some really low spin numbers. So probably a little bit lower launch, a little bit lower spin maybe for the player, probably a bit more suited to me, and that's a little bit of speed, or who's somebody's trying to really control the spin on the golf ball. So down by that golf ball, does that look any different to the X? So just bringing the X, the standard one, back in and just positioning now the LS against it. Is there any differences on that look? Do you know what? It's very, very subtle. The shaping is exactly the same. It sits incredibly square. Maybe not quite as long from that front to the back of the golf club, if I'm going to say anything, but matte black, still got that colouring on there. Lovely and square. Again, this is a 10.5 head, lofted it down to 9.5, same shaft as before. Oh, wow, yes. That has definitely come out in a very, very different trajectory. That's some great ball speed there. Yeah, 115, 167.5. See that spin, 1500. You could see it was much of a flatter flight visually, 181 on that carry. So good number there. Spin a little bit lower. But again, if you're playing maybe a windier golf course, you might want to see that spin be a little bit lower for that penetrating flight. Again, this is the conversations you're probably going to have with your fitter. Where do you play? The conditions you play, your delivery, your spin sort of characteristics is why one of the reasons why these companies provide different heads to suit different golfers. So technology-wise, exactly the same as what we're seeing on the other one, and we're probably going to see exactly the same in the Max version. Obviously, the weight position is different. Carbon head, again, big talking point of 2022's carbon, 30% more carbon, saving weight, reposition that in that weight in the front as well as those other two weights that we've got. So again, really dialing in that precise center of gravity in the club head to really get the consistency of the spin as much as they can, subject to strike. Again, that's a good ball flight. It's strong. So it seems to be moving these Cobra drivers pretty quick. Well, it's me just today. Feel like I'm much quicker, but 150, 165, good ball speed. Again, that spin's low, 1500. Ooh, right, that's a bad strike. That's right off the bottom. It's flown very straight. That's super ball speed for that. That was a really bottom strike. And look at that spin, hasn't moved at all. And I would probably say with that PWR core technology, that weight down and forward, that's going to really help on those slow central strikes. Keeping that ball speed up and really controlling that spin. That's an incredible spin number. Obviously, it's launched out at 9.8 from that low hit. You're always going to get that. But I'll tell you what, as that, again, I'm thinking of hitting back into an eye at that low strike, they always go and climb, especially with that wind into the old stall and climb. That isn't going to do that. Touch pull it. Again, it's a very firm feel off that club face. That's all I'm going to say there. It's very firm. I'm not really sold on that feel off the face, but do you know what? The ball flight is good. The numbers are really, really good, aren't they? Okay, so let's quickly look at the dispersion numbers to start with. So you can clearly see the blue there with their draw driver doing a job working up that left-hand side. So great for golf who maybe has a bit more of that right miss, wanting to sort of straighten that up or reduce that. Really good option. You can see the LS is the gold, so the low spin against the white, which is the standard X. So they were really good, you know, pretty much on top of each other in terms of a front to back, even that left to right dispersion, and quite nice and tight as well. Moving into the numbers, we've got standard X on the bottom, the LS in the middle, then the draw Max at the top. We can see club head speed 115 with pretty much all of those. So I was moving those drivers really quite nicely for me, probably 1.5 miles an hour quicker than what I would normally sort of see. Obviously that translated into a bit of ball speed, so 165 with the X, just touching 166 with the LS, the low spin, maybe that weight a little bit more forward, just a little bit hotter on that ball speed. Difference of flight there, you know, again, this is what it's sort of promoting, so more of that sort of mid-flight with the X. 13 launch was a great number for me. That's exactly where I'd like to sort of see it. You see the LS just came out that little bit low, even though we had the same loft, a little bit lower at that 11 as an average. Again, you can see that slightly low one obviously just pulls that down a little bit. Spin definitely lower, 1748 as an average. These 1500s just concern me a little bit, you know, that ball's just dipping out the sky a little bit. Again, depends where you play. You might want to sort of see that flight a little bit more penetrating. You might be a real high spin of the ball, you know, you've got a chance of getting that spin down, that 200 or 300, 400 revs, then, you know, it's a good option. 2-1 spins, super. This is where I'm at with that X. So for me, I would probably game that X a little bit more, you know, 13 launch, 2-1 spin. I've got that forgiveness behind it. 287 on the fly is really good numbers for me. So hats off to Cobra, 3 really good drivers there, suiting all types of different golfers. So definitely worth going, get fitting, lots of different shaft options as always. But post comments down below, let you know your thoughts. New Cobra LTD range of drivers. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you watching as always, and hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.